What is your favorite arc from My Hero, and what part of the story is your fave? Ooh, that's hard. I have a couple that come to mind. The Culture Festival arc is really good. For all its faults, I really like the Final War arc. But if I had to pick one, definitely the Overhaul arc is my favorite. I love the way that arc comes together, and it is one of those, like, I think I'm also a little biased because that's like where I started reading the manga, so I have a little bit more of an emotional, like, nostalgic attachment to it, because I remember reading through it, and like I started in volume 14 and 15, and then I had to wait for volume 16 to come out, and then I had to wait for volume 17 to come out, and then I had to wait for volume 18, and then like volume 18 was the conclusion, and I remember getting to the end of volume 17 and seeing like Deku going like 100%. I think his infinite 100% with Eri is how volume 17 ends. And I was like, oh, that's such a good cliffhanger. Oh, dude, that's crazy. So I think it's also an incredibly well-written arc. I like the whole like exploring the world building with the Chie Hasaikai and how all of that was handled. I wish Overhaul got to stay like part of the series in a bigger capacity, but I also understand they needed to make way for Shigaraki. And I always thought, like, wow, isn't it crazy that like Overhaul and Shigaraki have a similar quirk? Like, that's crazy. Only to then find out later on that they do have the same quirk. Favorite part of the story is a toss-up between the Final War arc, because I like all of this stuff with like Deku and Shigaraki and how the story ends. I really love the ending. I know some people are like, oh, the ending sucks, it's awful, it's terrible. I love the ending. I think it's actually really good. There's something really special to me about the Overhaul arc into the Culture Festival arc, because I think everyone is really quick to, like, if there's a, if they say there's a filler arc in My Hero, they will always put the Culture Festival arc up there as filler, because it's like, well, they're not like fighting or doing anything. But I'm like, I think you're missing the narrative standpoint of what the Culture Festival arc is supposed to be. And that is something that is intentional about showcasing the different aspects of hero society. Because the Overhaul arc is all about, like, yes, we want to physically save Eri. We need to get her out of there, get her away from Overhaul, be heroes. But then it opens it up. It opens up the world and opens up the narrative in two different ways. One, by showing that, yes, Eri is physically safe, but she's not emotionally or mentally safe. That you do have to overcome that hurdle as well, which is something that I think was important for all of those kids to learn, especially Deku. And with that arc, that's where you start to see Uraraka's character come into effect a little bit, and like her starting to understand and building towards, everything she goes through with Toga, and then later on into the court counseling. Never let them tell you that Uraraka doesn't do anything, because she does. They're just choosing not to pay attention. It's willful ignorance. Anyway, so there's that, but then there's also the gentle criminal side of it. After coming out of Overhaul, that almost reinforces the mindset of villains are bad and need to be thrown in jail, or like they're just evil people who, can't be redeemed, right? Where Gentle Criminal comes in and directly opposes and challenges that worldview and says, well, wait a minute, he's not trying to hurt anyone, he's not trying to cause like mass destruction, he just wants to invade the school to film it for a YouTube video so that he gets famous. Like, so he's not really a villain, he's just someone who does like, he's a criminal, but he's not a villain. So making the distinction between that, but then also like he can still be saved, he can still be redeemed. He's not so far gone in the sense of someone like All For One, who is just genuinely evil. Gentle Criminal just needed to be moved back onto the right path, because all of his life circumstances are what led him to that point and what led him to doing all of that stuff. Same for La Brava. Like, everything she was doing was not malicious in nature, right? Like, she just needed to be guided on where to go in society, where to go in life. Like, you can guide them to, here's a more positive way to use your power, which then comes full circle when you get to see Gentle and La Brava fight in the final war, like him using his power to keep UA from falling and her boosting him so that he can do that, but also using her hacking to take out the villains. Like, so the Culture Festival arc is such a key tenet of this series, where sure, it's definitely slower and it's paced differently and it doesn't have as much action as some of the other sections of the show, but I think, to me, it is in essence what My Hero is about, especially when you pair it with the Overhaul arc, which is why season 4 is it's now my second favorite season, because season 8 is my favorite now. But that's why season 4 was my favorite season for so long, because it hits you with that 1-2 punch of like, all right, we're going to get you with the Overhaul arc, all the fighting, bing, bang, boom. And then bam, we're going to hit you with the Culture Festival arc. And like, we're going to ground ourselves again in this very realistic way. And also shows like Eri, yes, was physically saved by Deku and Mirio and everyone who went. But to save someone emotionally is not something you can just punch your way through or fight your way through. And they show that through like her being saved through the music and like the performance that 1A put on for the Culture Festival. So I think it's just a really good arc, and I think it gets a lot of unnecessary criticism from people who just want generic battle shonen and not any other kind of like substance or plot in their show. So that was a long-winded tangent about that, but I hope that answers your question. So they did more of a Last Airbender type filler where it's still important to the story despite it not being about fighting or driving the focus of the war forward. Yes, that's what it is. And I think a lot of people get caught up with that kind of stuff where they're like, oh, but you know, the gang going to the beach for a relax, that doesn't, how could you? Where's my fighting? I want to see the war. It's like, yeah, I understand that. But also, that whole section of Avatar gives you a lot of good introspective on the characters, and it gets you more attached to the characters. Because yes, it's okay to have there be a lot of fighting in your story, but if you don't get me attached to the characters, I'm not really going to care about the fights, which is where I think Jujutsu Kaisen really struggles, because they jump from fight to fight to fight to fight without having downtime in between to really get me attached to the characters. Some of my favorite stuff from My Hero is like the Culture Festival arc, or like some of the stuff where they're just in the dorms being kids, like being friends, and seeing how all of that shakes out. And Jujutsu Kaisen doesn't really have that, which is part of the reason why I don't like Jujutsu Kaisen, because I feel like they never get me super invested with the characters. Now, that doesn't mean they're all bad characters. Like, I think from a premise standpoint, like, Nanami is a really good character. Gojo is a really good character. I really love the trio of Yuji, Nobara, and Megumi. I think that's a great trio. They really balance each other out. But they never get any time to just hang out outside of doing jujitsu work. Like, give me an episode where they just hang out and they're just chilling. I know they kind of do that at the beginning of season 2 when Yuji meets that girl he used to go to class with, and like you see them. You get told a lot that like Yuji and Nobara went out and hung out as friends, or that, you know, Megumi and Nobara were hanging out and they went and saw a movie. Like, we get told that, but I want to see it. I want to see them do these things. And I think that's where My Hero really shines, is Horikoshi was able to find a balance of, here, let me show you these characters going and doing these things while also telling you that they do these things. You got to have a balance of both. I thought that season 5 episode with Uraraka and Sue was okay. I mean, it wasn't good and it wasn't bad. I mean, yeah, that's genuine filler, though. That was genuine filler that was meant to tie into the movie. And that's an anime problem. Even though I do like that we got to see more of like that chill, and it gave us some more stuff with Nejire, and they're also trying to plug the movie, which is why they swapped the Endeavor Agency arc with My Villain Academia. And I don't think that was the best decision the anime made. Season 5 is rough. It's rough, but that's strictly an anime problem. That's not a story problem. So yeah, long tangent. Those are my favorite arcs of My Hero.